Just 2 weeks after quietly launching their shiny new virtual tabletop, Wizards of the Coast and Hasbro have done what they do best and destroyed another promising project. But this isn't your average corporate blunder. This time, they didn't just trip, they took a flamethrower to the entire team, firing almost everyone involved. That's right, 90% of the Sigil team is now gone. The folks who can't stop killing D&D have struck again. But let's rewind a little bit. Back in mid-2024, Wizards unveiled Sigil as the future of D&D, a fancy 3D virtual tabletop built on Unreal Engine 5. They promised an immersive 3D sandbox with fully customizable maps, minis, and D&D Beyond integration. They even paraded Baldur's Gate 3 characters like Astarion and Karlach around, hoping some of that success would rub off. But as I said in my previous video, this had corporate train wreck written all over it. Hasbro executives who barely understand the difference between a virtual tabletop and a fully fledged video game somehow expected this untested platform to print money like Fortnite. Meanwhile, actual D&D players were perfectly happy using Roll20, Foundry, and Tailspire, tools built by people who actually play tabletop games. So what exactly happened? On March the 18th, veteran D&D designer Andy Collins dropped a bombshell on LinkedIn, and he said, "Today, approximately 30 talented developers, 90% of the whole team, were laid off from the Sigil virtual tabletop team, including yours truly." Collins wasn't just some nobody, he's a 15-year veteran at Wizards of the Coast, a respected designer who returned to help build this vision. And Hasbro thanked him by showing him the door. But the real story here is in the leaked internal memo from Dan Rawson, the senior vice president of D&D at Hasbro. Here's what he told the employees. "After months of testing, our aspirations for Sigil as a large standalone game with a distinct monetization path will not be realized. We cannot maintain a large development effort, and most of the Sigil team will be separated from the company this week." And that roughly translates to, we couldn't figure out how to squeeze enough cash from this thing, so we're tossing it and the team aside. And you notice that word, monetization, not player experience, not making D&D more accessible, just cold, hard cash. And this is peak corporate thinking, where success isn't measured by creating something good, but by how efficiently you can extract money from players' wallets. And the timing couldn't be more ridiculous. This happened barely a month after Sigil entered public testing, and most D&D fans didn't even know it existed yet. The platform was a mess, buggy, unfinished, and demanding PC specs you'd expect for running NASA simulators. I've seen indie games with more polish than this supposed flagship product. But let's be honest, Sigil flopped because Hasbro built it for shareholders, not for players. They saw how Baldur's Gate 3 made bank and thought, hey, let's turn our virtual tabletop into a video game cash cow. What blows my mind is Hasbro executives treated Sigil like a video game cash cow rather than a tabletop tool. And according to sources at Gizmodo, management was even considering putting other Hasbro IPs into Sigil. Imagine rolling up to your D&D sessions and seeing Mr. Potato Head or My Little Pony figures on your virtual table. Nothing screams immersive fantasy experience like Monopoly tokens fighting alongside your halfling rogue. Hasbro execs can seemingly barely comprehend the difference between a virtual tabletop and a video game, and that explains everything. The system requirements alone for Sigil were insane for what was essentially a glorified map tool. You needed a gaming PC to run what Roll20 and Foundry can do in a browser. This wasn't just poor planning, it was complete disconnection from reality. And at this point, no one's shocked. Hasbro has an almost supernatural ability to ruin anything good. They're the King Midas of bad ideas. Everything they touch turns to a disaster. Remember when Baldur's Gate 3 exploded into massive success? That's because Larian Studios handled everything. And what happened to the D&D team after BG3 success? Well, according to Larian CEO Sven Vinker, of the people who were in the original meeting room between Larian and Wizards of the Coast, there's almost nobody left at Wizards. They fired the very people who helped make their most successful game in decades. And what's even more absurd is that Hasbro this week seemed to be simultaneously hyping up Baldur's Gate 4. At GDC 2025, Dan Ayub, Hasbro's VP of Digital Gaming, teased, "In pretty short order, we're going to have some stuff to talk about regarding the next Baldur's Gate game." He emphasized they're not in a hurry and will take a measured approach, which sounds suspiciously like what someone says right after rushing and bungling their previous project. So they're killing one D&D digital project while teasing another. But without Larian Studios at the helm, does anyone genuinely trust Hasbro to deliver another masterpiece? Picture Baldur's Gate 4 filled with loot boxes or a monthly subscription to unlock your party members. Knowing Hasbro, we can probably expect a pay-to-roll mechanic. So what's happening to Sigil now? Well, according to the leaked memo from Rawson, Sigil will be transitioned into a mere D&D Beyond feature rather than a standalone product, a skeleton crew of maybe 3 to 4 people will sustain Sigil and release products already developed at no additional cost to users. Imagine spending years developing something only to have it downgraded to a bonus feature nobody asked for. This is peak Hasbro. Big promises, zero follow through, and a complete disconnect from what D&D players actually want. The D&D community isn't just disappointed, they're straight up laughing at Hasbro's incompetence. Hasbro wants infinite money for no effort, and they only remember D&D's value after seeing it booming in popularity. It's quite clear now that Magic the Gathering is Hasbro's golden child, and it contributes around 90% of Wizards of the Coast's revenue, apparently, while D&D is treated like the unwanted stepchild. The golden goose is being strangled right before our very eyes, but hey, at least the executives got their big bonuses, right? So what does this mean for the broader virtual tabletop landscape? Well, with Sigil faltering, alternative virtual tabletops remain unfazed. Platforms like Roll20, Foundry, and Tailspire will continue serving the bulk of online D&D play. One silver lining though for players, Wizards of the Coast isn't trashing Sigil's content. All the digital minis, environments, and features developed under Sigil are promised to be released free for D&D Beyond users. But that's not generosity, that's damage control. After the PR disaster of the OGL controversy in early 2023, they can't afford another fan revolt. But this is just the latest in a disturbing pattern at Hasbro. They seem determined to drive D&D into the ground with short-sighted business decisions. Now they've massacred the Sigil team after barely giving the product a chance to breathe. This slash and burn approach to development isn't just bad for players, it's terrible for business. You can't build long-lasting digital products by firing your institutional knowledge every few months. Hasbro has exhibited almost comical levels of mismanagement when it comes to D&D, which is insane really considering it's now at its height of popularity. But let's put this into perspective. Baldur's Gate 3 sold millions of copies and won Game of the Year. D&D shows like Critical Role and Vox Machina draw massive audiences. The D&D movie itself performed above expectations, whether you like it or not, and the game itself is now more popular than ever. And somehow Hasbro still can't capitalize on this golden moment. Instead, they fire the experts, rush half-baked products, and chase short-term profits over long-term growth. And I'm convinced Hasbro executives wouldn't recognize a good D&D product even if it cast Fireball on their quarterly reports. The Sigil disaster proves what I've been saying all along. Hasbro doesn't understand D&D or its community. They see the brand as an ATM, not a beloved game with a passionate fan base. Meanwhile, the indie virtual tabletop market, Roll20, Foundry, Tailspire, continue to thrive because they're built by actual tabletop gamers for actual tabletop gamers. If you're one of the 5 people that tried Sigil, what are your thoughts? And if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to subscribe for more D&D and RPG news. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one.